So how can we improve this? Well, it's a process called vision therapy. What is vision therapy? Therapy is a specific sequence of techniques to help an individual learn to use their visual system effectively, how to work them together as a team so that they can bring in information and make sense of that information. Imagine that there are two good players on a basketball team. Okay? If they don't pass the ball to one another, what's going to happen? They're going to lose. They're not going to win. Well, if I can't get my two team members to work effectively, well, this team is not going to work. Okay? So this is kind of like a spousal relationship, a boyfriend and a girlfriend, a quarterback and a receiver, a pitcher and a catcher. And we have to be well synced. It teaches individuals how to take in a large amount of information with the least amount of energy in order to quickly solve issues of daily living. Vision therapy is a clinical approach to correcting eye movement disorders like head tracking or those saccades, binocular dysfunction, how the two eyes work together, how they physically focus. If somebody has an eye that turns in or turns out, and visual perceptual issues. Who can benefit from vision therapy? Well, children and adults that have vision problems that interfere with visual processing. I see many adults who've had a stroke or a concussion or long COVID. School problems in reading and learning. People have a lazy eye. Again, either an eye that turns in or turns out. That's called strabismus. Or amblyopia, which is different because with somebody who has amblyopia, it may look straight, so they may look like everyone else. Brain injury, okay, whether it's acquired or traumatic. Those who are on the autism spectrum, people who have ADD or ADHD, often pediatricians, neurologists, psychiatrists will put people on medication. What I find is if we address the underlying fire, you no longer have the smoke. People have developmental delays. People have been diagnosed, say quotes, dyslexia or learning disabilities. So vision is a learned skill, much as learning how to drive a car or riding a bicycle or playing the piano or playing tennis. And if we lack a solid foundation, then it's really difficult to build this house. How can reading specialists identify if there's a vision problem that impacts reading? Well, we're going to be talking about each of these. We're going to start with ocular motility because it's really, really easy and it's a test that takes just a couple seconds. Ocular motility. Can I have you come up, please? Even with your shoes. So I want you to turn around. Okay? I'm going to stand on the side. And this is the whole skill set. Jen, I want you to look right here. Okay? Please follow those three words. Okay? So you can see I'm about 6 inches from her. Okay? Normally I would be standing here, okay? But I want you guys to be able to see this. Okay? And if you want it simpler, just say follow. That's the whole thing. How long did it take? Couple seconds. Okay, that's the whole test. Okay. So first, we build horizontal skills. Okay. So this is you're at about 6 inches, and you go shoulder to shoulder. Okay. And you're asking this person to just follow. And what you'll see, particularly, or you might see this with a child, for example. Okay. They move their entire body because they haven't learned how to separate their head from their body. You've got a hinge, it's called our neck. Okay? And if I haven't learned how to separate my head from my body, then it's harder for me to input information. You might see this. Okay? You might see somebody does this. meaning they don't move their entire body, but they move their entire head. And sometimes I'll have a mom that says, well, you didn't tell him what to do. I say, precisely, because I wanted to see what comes natural. And then I may repeat this, and I say, okay, this time I want you to do this with just your eyes. I don't say don't move your head, it's with just your eyes, okay? And then they'll do this. You'll see a lot of brown, okay? And they're really trying to pour it on, okay? And then we would go to the next level of vertical. We move their entire head. Okay? So we start out with horizontal, shoulder to shoulder. Vertical is about the same distance above as below. Then we go to diagonal. And then circle. You don't have to write this down because you have a write-up in your packets there of what to do and how to do this. And then we do start-stop, because a start-stop is a saccade. It's a jumping type of eye movement. And then we do near point of convergence. And near point of convergence is how close I can get. Okay? Well, why do we do this test at 6 inches, Dr. Roth? Okay? Well, nobody reads at this distance. Part of what you're trying to do is you're trying to stress the system. Okay? You're trying to extract a lot of information in a relatively short amount of time. And that's why we do it at this distance. And if somebody can't go to first grade, they're not going to get into second or third grade. If I don't know my numbers, there's no way that I'm doing division. Okay? So we have to build. So if somebody misses the horizontal, there's no need to go to the other tests. Okay, so we do horizontal, vertical, diagonal, circle, start, stop, near point of convergence. Binocular vision assessment, this is a different test. Okay? This is also a relatively simple test, okay, that I can share with you, Nicole. And if you want to do this, it takes a little bit longer. It takes about 7 minutes to do a screening on this test. There are 7 subtests. And what I'd like you to do is I want you to look over here, because this is the printout. Okay? Norm means average. Okay? And this is a quick pass-fail. What we're looking at here is where do the eyes, what aphoria means is where do the eyes naturally want to point. What fusional range is how much more can I converge, bring my eyes in, and diverge. Well, why is this important? Because again, in class, I have to be able to point my eyes in to look at the book, and then to point my eyes out so that I can look at the board of the teacher. I should have 10 diopters. Don't get confused with the word diopter. Think of this as weight. Okay? I should be able to pick up 10 pounds and hold those 10 pounds for about 6 minutes. Again, that's the analogy. That's the draw. Okay? So here, this person who's 7 years old has more. They have 12, so that's more than 10. And their recovery is at 8, and that's why it says pass. Okay? But my ability to bring my eyes in, and that's what phase out means, is the ability to converge. I should have 20 units, but I only have 10. That's why it says this. And if I have 10, that's already less than 16, I'm able to bring it back into 1 only with 2. Okay? So the point is I should be able to pick up 20 pounds and hold those 20 pounds for about 16 minutes. And I'm only able to pick up about 10 pounds and hold it for 2 minutes. So I can't sustain it. This is called convergence insufficiency. I can't easily converge, and I can't hold it. And if I can't do that, then I can't upload. I'm spending so much of my energy doing that. I only have 100% of my energy. If I have to use 20 or 30% just trying to bring my eyes in, I have less energy left over for processing, for making sense of what I just read. Just like when I had you read those paragraphs. What accommodation means is that physical focusing. That's the demonstration we did before. So here you can see we're looking for 80%. We're not looking for 100%. And this person gets 87. Great. Okay? But for the left eye, they just get 25%. There's four of these images on the line. So even if I just guess, I'm going to get one of those right. That's why you have 25%. Okay? And so you can see this is less than this, and that's why it says this. I should be able to focus and defocus about 12 times a minute. Board to the book, teacher to my notes, okay? But this person, this 7-year-old, can only do it 0 times. And that's why it says fail, okay? And I really like this test because I'm not even in the room. I'm interpreting the text. I'm helping the parents understand. But it's not like I'm telling the parent that this is what's happening with John. A saccade is that jumping eye movement. So here, we're looking for 80% correct. They get 100% correct, but it costs them a whole lot longer time. Should be able to do this within 1.2 seconds, but it costs them about 2 seconds. And that's why it says this. The Worth 4 dot is a different test that also tells us different information about how somebody's using their 2 eyes together as a team. A pursuit is that tracking movement. Again, we're looking for 80% correct. This person gets under that. That's why it says fail. And it takes them longer than what's average or normal. Here's an 8-year-old. And you can see this person's numbers are considerably less than this person, than average. And that's why it says this. So again, this is a quick test that gives us a lot of information within a relatively short amount of time. Accommodative facility. Again, I should be able to do this 12 times in a minute, but I can only do it about 5.5 times. Here with the saccade, it took me a whole lot longer than it should. So the binocular vision assessment measures where the 2 eyes should normally be, the ability for the 2 eyes to superimpose, to converge and diverge. Accommodation is that physical focusing. The saccade is that jumping eye movement. Pursuit is that tracking movement. The Worth 4 dot is do the 2 eyes superimpose? Does somebody suppress or turn off the image inside their head? The King-Devitt test, and I'm absolutely certain that you guys have this test already because it's part of IMPACT. IMPACT is a test for people who've had a concussion. This was actually 2 4th-year students in optometry school that came up with this as a project. And there's graded progression from simple to more complex, slightly more involved than the other, but these are the 4 parts of the test. The first part is the demonstration part. Johnny, this is what we want you to do. We just want you to follow the arrows. This way, it's kind of like when you took the SATs. Okay, this is the example of what the next 50 questions are going to be. So this is what we want you to be able to do. In test 1, you can see that they still have lines between us to help Johnny when Johnny's reading this test. Okay. Test 2, you can see those lines are taken away. Okay. Why is this test important? Because again, sometimes you have a longer word or a shorter word. Words are uneven. And these are timed. And then we look this up on a scale of what's considered average or normal. And the third test is a little bit further apart. The developmental eye movement test compares vertical to horizontal. Again, this is age norm from 6 to 14. Again, it's slightly more involved, and that's why I wanted you to learn the ocular motilities first. The Readalizer is a phenomenal tool. We use this for all of our patients before we begin the therapy program. These are the special goggles. First, we do an oral reading test to determine what this person's grade level is. They might be in 3rd grade reading on a 2nd grade level. So when we do this test, we actually do it using 1st grade material. We have them read a paragraph. This measures their eye movements. And at the end, we're asking them 10 yes or no questions to make sure that they've comprehended. So this is what the printout looks like. And you can see this child is in 3rd grade. We had them read a 2nd grade material. So somebody in 2nd grade would read on average, would have 155 fixations. What a fixation means is how many times I have to look at a word or a phrase. And you can see that this person did about twice as many fixations. Okay, what does that mean? Well, if we look over here, this is the other printout. You can see this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So you can see they spend a lot of time in just these two words. And then they jumped over to pets. And then they skipped over she has a and went to here. And then they went to the next line, but instead of beginning at the beginning of the next line, they started over here. 5, 6, 7, 8. This is called a regression. And this person regressed 139 times, but the grade average for second grade is 35. So they did this 5 times as much. So what's the reading rate? How many words are they reading per minute? Well, somebody in second grade would read about 140 words a minute, but this person's reading about 80 words a minute. Here's another person. This is a second grader. We're testing them on a first grade level, but you can see they have to make a lot more fixations. And the amount of times they have to go back and reread the same material because they didn't trust themselves. And this person's words per minute is 36, as opposed to somebody in first grade who should be able to read 115 words a minute. So signs of vision problems. Somebody who skips words or rereads lines or phrases, reads too slowly, uses their finger to guide their eyes. Well, that should drop out by someplace around the end of first grade. Reverses words or letters, usually fatigued or restless after maintaining visual concentration. Complains of the letters running together or jumping around. Complains of blur while reading or writing. They might move their head when they're reading. And that's what I showed you when we do that ocular motility test. Difficulty indicating right and left. Moves more to one side consistently or bumps into objects always on the same side. Poor ability to remember what's read. Writes up or down a hill on paper. Misaligns both horizontal and vertical series of numbers. So to recap, distance visual acuity with one eye at a time, as tested with the Snellen chart, is not a good measure of how we use vision. Reading requires efficient use of the two eyes at near. You have to fixate. You have to fuse the two images. You have to physically focus. You have to follow across the page. You have to remember what you just read. You have to process that information in order to come up with new concepts and to demonstrate that we've acquired that knowledge. When should somebody have an eye exam? Well, the first exam should be at about age 1 and 3 and 5 and every year that a child is in school.